All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Me here, talking real music in real time for a few real people out there, just like you and just like me. All right, before I get going, I have the t-shirt on. So again, I'll share Flatland Calvary with folks. Welcome to Countryland. This is country with rock and roll tendencies, some folk music thrown in there as well, just straight out roots Americana. Red dirt music from West Texas, baby. Just really great stuff. And I know it's not in everybody's wheelhouse, but I really enjoy this. It's a nice diversion. When I get tired of melodic rock, which I love, I'll switch over and get some nutrients from the red dirt soil in West Texas. Truly Americana stuff. And speaking of truly Americana, well, you can't get too much more Americana than the band America. I'm going to talk about America because I find it interesting that American radio stations, these big conglomerates who own everything and broadcast pretty much the same format in every city, and it's all basically piped in and selected at the corporate level, and then everybody else just executes the format in whatever locale they reside. America is one of those bands that has been pimped out on radio now for 50 years. 50 years. And by the way, America is still out there. The two remaining members and the musicians that they use to go out on tour, we're talking about Dewey Bunnell and Jerry Beckley. All right. Now, not household names. And of course, I miss Dan Peake, who passed away a number of years ago. Dan left America in the late 70s. He became a born-again Christian, and he recorded, I think, a couple of Christian albums and really stuck to his faith. And that was it, though, for him in America. Unlike Richie Furay, I don't think Dan came back to perform with the band. But those three guys, all right, at the beginning, and you got George Martin doing the production. I mean, the guy from the Beatles is here and he's going to produce. What do you think? Okay, sounds good. I mean, it was destined. It was destined to be a success, not just because of George Martin, but because these guys wrote really great songs and they had really great vocals, really great harmony parts, and they had a number of very big hit singles from their beginning into the mid-70s. And even beyond that, I don't think they got the same record label support that they got early on. Eventually, they would leave Warner Brothers and go over to Capitol. And I don't know if Capitol did a good job with this band, getting them out there. But I remember this album called Silent Letter came out right before the beginning of the 80s, like, I don't know, early 79, something like that, maybe mid 1979. And I thought that album was spectacular from start to finish, was really good, production value off the charts, the band writing great songs. Unfortunately, I think it might have been their first album without Dan Peake, but George Martin was still there. And for the most part, radio didn't really do anything with it. And I thought to myself, something's up here. You know, even back in those days, I went out and bought, as a young kid, I bought the Doobie Brothers' greatest hits on cassette. I had America's greatest hits on cassette and the Eagles' greatest hits on cassette. I think I bought them all at the same time. And I didn't know which one to listen to first. So I just did like alphabetical. I did America first, then the Doobie Brothers, then the Eagles. Getting my alphabet wrong there. But yeah, and I just popped in the cassette and I kept going back to America's greatest hits. That was such a great package of songs. And even today, that's one of the better greatest hits packages out there. I mean, Eagles, kind of hard to argue with the success of their first greatest hits album. I think it might still be the best-selling album of all time. But I was so drawn to America. And the Doobies, that was really great too. But the Doobies, a couple of those songs weren't really on the radio. I don't remember like Without You being on the radio, but with America, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I've heard every one of these songs. And 50 years later, most of those songs are still being played every day all around this country. And it's similar to what's happening to the Little River Band. Although the focus testers have been a little more harsh on LRB, especially they were still hitting on all cylinders going into the early 80s, whereas America had some issues and then had a big comeback with a song called You Can Do Magic, which I didn't expect that. That was like, wow, these guys are back. They kind of fit here. They kind of tweaked their sound a little bit to fit in with the 1980s, but they're still playing these acoustic guitar parts and these nice, smooth electric guitar parts and great melody, great songwriting. It's what they're all about. But yet, the critics in this country absolutely hate America, and maybe to the same extent they don't like the original Little River Band, although they acknowledge that their songs are great and they're on the radio. And typically they'll rank like a compilation album better than those individual albums. But you go on to like All Music or Rolling Stone Review, and it's like 1 star. Boy, this is such a horrible album, and schmaltzy and predictable and just all of this stuff. And you're like, that's really not what I heard. I mean, what are you looking for? I mean, not everybody can be the Ramones, right? I mean, this is music that a lot of people gravitate toward because it's pleasant. It might bring you back to a better time in your life, but it's great production value. And like I often say in videos, it doesn't make your ears bleed. Put some headphones on and hear those acoustic guitars. And I think it'll improve your life. You'll feel better about things. And I'm not sure why the critics and institutions like the Hall of Fame don't embrace something that brings a lot of joy to people. I really think we need a parallel music economy where we can recognize music that hadn't been recognized yet. I mean, there are, a ton of bands. I mentioned the Guess Who a lot. I mean, if you're an 80s fan, you've got REO Speedwagon and Foreigner, both of whom started out in the 70s. So technically, a band that started off in the 70s and progressed beyond that. Kansas is another great example, but Kansas doesn't have the radio catalog that a band like America has. America is just custom made for adult contemporary radio. No matter what decade you're in, by the way, it just never gets old. You don't go and say, oh, that sounds really cheesy. Some of that stuff, obviously, with a lot of keyboards in the 80s, some people say, it's too cluttered. It's too many like fake drums and stuff in there. Just doesn't sound organic. Whereas, we went out of the 80s, and even though I couldn't stand grunge was far more organic. It was, a guy trying to bang on a guitar and people yelling and singing and all kind of sounding like Cookie Monster for the most part on vocals. But at least it was organic. And you would think that a band like America, okay, yeah, but the 90s were so radically depressing that, again, the music of a band like America just would never make a comeback because of what they were up against. But their fans never go away. Their fans absolutely love America. They love that they can go to a concert and just kick back and hear music. They're not going to get preached at unless maybe these guys are, trying to work for a charity or they want to do something for the country itself, maybe. And that is, I guess, probably what turns off the critics and people at the Hall of Fame. These guys are too mild-mannered. They never got into a ton of trouble. There was no knock on the door, with Don Henley and some girl There was I don't think there was any of that with America. Not to say that that ruins the band or ruins the image or wasn't the prevailing thing, but if you do come out of this kind of straight laced and untarnished by tabloid headlines and getting into trouble, I don't think that should disqualify you for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I think people should say, look, it's a cool thing. Just like Dennis DeYoung, he's been married for like 50 something years to his wife. And I think that's a cool thing. And people shouldn't get on the guy because, hey, that's not the rock and roll way. Okay. Well, anyway, all I know is that, like the blind man who could see, right, and went and told everybody, I don't know, what happened to me, but I do know I was blind and now I can see. With America, it's like, I don't know, man. I listen to these songs and they're all really good. Even some of the deeper tracks, even some of those singles that came later that didn't get a lot of radio airplay. Go listen to the song All Around by America. That's a band hitting on all cylinders. I don't think you're going to hear that song on your local adult contemporary station because, again, they're not going to go too deep. They're just going to stick to like Ventura Highway because that's what they do. But needless to say, a song like Ventura Highway gets you into the Hall of Fame. And all of the material surrounding that era and George Martin, all of that should get you into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So anyway, this band here, great band. See, I'm not only a fan, I'm also a customer, right? And somebody wants to buy me that box set and send it to me. I looked it up online. I'm like, yeah, no, I can't afford to do that. I'm sending my kid to a school that I have to pay for. So I can't do that. So in any event, just an amazing band and deserve better. I mean, I do these videos where I say it's a war on so-and-so. And I do that just for like headline's sake. Like, what's the war on this band? There isn't a radio war on America, not at all. To the contrary, but there is a war within, the critics' circles and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The fact that they've never been considered for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, much like, they let the cat out of the bag the other day. Oh, Foreigner. They've never even been considered for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Styx? No way. America? Come on, people. America? Yeah. They should have been in the Hall of Fame as soon as they were eligible. They're part of the Great American Songbook right beside bands like the Beach Boys and the Eagles and Chicago. And there's no way they shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. So anyway, that's my video on the topic. Thanks for watching. One more time on this band. I don't know if they'll ever be in any Hall of Fame, but they're really good. This is Flatland Cavalry and Welcome to Countryland. I've got new material out there streaming on your usual streaming platforms to go and listen to. And again, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. Patreon for $1 a month to join the Patreon crew over here. The RMO Brigade, growing by leaps and bounds, sort of, every single month. I gain a few, I lose a few, but I appreciate all of you, and I will see you soon.